Ladies and gents, welcome to the Abnormies podcast. I am Sai. Joining me, as always, is Branda. What's happening, brother?
Hello, universe.
How you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. Pretty damn good, I have to say.
What's this little number that this off the shoulder number you've got going on?
I thought I'd try to go for the sexy look and try to
Yeah,
show
it's
some
definitely
skin.
it's working. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, man, it's good.
yeah. I got the hair. I've always wanted to have hair like this, like a flowing mane, because I have really
Yeah,
thick hair. But I've always, try to be modest and cut it really short. But I figured now that I'm 40, fuck modesty and like
yeah,
let's go full on, lion's mane and
yeah.
show my
And
chest.
off the shoulder dresses.
Off the shoulder dresses, and it's
Excellent.
actually just a blanket, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it's gonna slide down lower as we go. So
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
revealing,
Very
eh? Yeah. It's so. Yeah, I don't think we've spoken on a podcast since you turned 40. I guess we mentioned early on in the episodes that your prognosis was that you would live till 33 was the best hope.
30, yeah,
Um,
34. I think
so
that was.
how does it feel hitting 40 and fucking all those skepticism off? How did that feel?
It feels good. It feels like this is the afterlife, and I am already in heaven.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like I think that's one way of seeing it. It's like I think I've spoken this about this in interviews before. How like at one point I thought I was going to die, and I got this prognosis of a few more years, and then I didn't. I stopped getting worse, and I didn't die, and I started getting better, and it was like because there was a certain liberation that came with the acknowledgement that I only have a few years left. So
yeah,
let's make the best of these few years that I have left, and then you kind of take away that deadline, and suddenly you're like, I have all the time
yeah,
seemingly in the world. So it's all a bonus, and it's like I really value life in a different way as a consequence. And yeah, it's been beautiful. I think definitely
excellent.
write a book about it one day when it all kind of condenses into some kind of
Yeah,
spiritual
man.
understanding.
Oh well, if you're moving your arms and that, is your goal to be able to type again one day?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
want to do everything. I mean, it's I try to be realistic with it. I mean, I have a long way to climb,
yeah,
and I still have a lot of limitations. But it is like when I really attack a certain movement or area of my body, meaning like I do training very regularly and consistently. I do see a lot of improvements.
yeah,
So and then I'll hit a wall. Like last week, I've started training in the morning, and then I do CrossFit,
yeah,
and and that was going really well until one day I just did too much, and then it was just like I want to sleep.
yeah,
Uh, so, but I think that's the way to go. You do this dance where you find your limit, you go past it, you recover, and then you try to kind of be intelligent about it.
yeah.
So that's where I'm at now. So if I keep going, I maybe I'll play up in that piano one day. Like do 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 do.
So,
It's the only
do you,
it's the
do
only
you get
song I know.
do you get a regular like MOT from the doctor?
MOT. What's that?
Like it's where you take your car in for it's what we call it here in
Yeah.
England for like a checkup, a
Oh, check.
regular.
Oh, I gave up on doctors a while back. I
Right.
mean, I really should. It's just, I don't know. I spent so much time with doctors for so long, and very little came out of it. So
Mm,
I just kind of, and that's my situation. I think, it's not about, turning your back on doctors. It's just, due to my very limited situation due to this, damage in my brain. There
yeah,
just wasn't, there's no diagnosis of it. There's no cure to be had, so to speak. I mean, there are all kinds of treatments that I could try, but I think, I really think that, the best thing for me is just, stay as healthy as I possibly can.
Yeah.
and just push it like Rocky that shit, and every
Yeah, man.
day train as much as I can, and just stay positive, and yeah, enjoy
Definitely, man.
life as I try to climb
Yeah, man.
climb this mountain of my body.
I think as well, 40 comes with a lot of benefits of giving less of a shit about anything. I just really, I've got like a collection of toys behind us. I wear whatever clothes I deem fit. Yeah, I've got no filter really. I don't like.
Yeah,
I don't care as much about people's opinions as I may have done in my 20s.
yeah,
I
yeah.
never really gave a great deal, but it's even more liberating the older I get. That I just don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah, it's funny. I kind of, when I was 20, I always thought like that I was a very, nonchalant type of person. I didn't really
Yeah,
mind what other people thought of me. But now that I'm 40, I realize that my life revolved around other people's opinions. At
yeah,
that age, it was all about showing, look how strong I am, look
mm,
how competent. But now, like you said, it was like I turned 40 sometime plus minus a few days. It's like a switch in my brain, and suddenly I just like life,
yeah,
whatever. I love the idea of having, like, if I live to 80 years old, for example, I mean, 40 more years,
yeah,
that's fucking awesome. Oh, that would be so cool.
yeah, man, definitely.
Of being
Especially
me instead of,
the medical and technological advances, man. It's so like highly possible.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing for somebody who is completely paralyzed. I mean, so long as, they move their body every now and then, get the blood flowing, and try to exert their heart every now and then,
Yeah,
there's no telling how long that kind of person can live, so long as they live a fairly healthy life. So,
yeah,
so far, I'm working out and I'm keeping healthy, but at the same time, I'm like, maybe I'll die tomorrow, and then,
yeah.
oh well.
That's one of them things you won't know anything about it, so
Yeah.
you'll have no idea. So it's
No,
nothing to worry
no,
about, I suppose.
no, I'm not worried about being dead, but like the times that I've almost died, they kind of, there were moments where you're like, "Oh, this is really fucking scary,"
Yeah, yeah.
So the process of dying, I think, there are some that are better than others.
Did we talk about this? My memory, as you know, my memory is terrible. But did we talk about you having a white light experience? Was that right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I had like a
yeah,
tunnel experience. I saw the world through a tunnel, and yeah, that was it was not scary at all. It was more like coming back to life, and having this sense of not wanting to die.
yeah.
Then looking back, it was kind of like woo, woo, shit. But I
But
mean,
at,
I
at the
tried.
time, was it like a comforting light kind of thing? Like a
Yeah, it was like going to sleep. It was like oh, this feels nice. I wanna
yeah,
stay here. Let's just let's go to sleep in this place.
yeah. You,
And
you hear that quite often with near death experience, and then all of a sudden something like goes, no, 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 I want to be back. I want to come back. Yeah,
yeah, well, in this instance, it's the moment that the people around me mentioned my mother, it was like, no, let's not call
yeah,
her. So I wanted to,
yeah,
I think outliving your child is probably a horrible thing. So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I've made the decision. I'm gonna outlive my mum.
yeah,
I hope at least she lives for a long, long time. So
yeah.
I'm gonna yeah, be here, and
Definitely. No, I completely agree with that. I completely echo that sentiment. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Your children have to outlive you. It just has to be it has to be done.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. But how
Speaking of
about you? What's
well,
going on?
I'm 42 in a couple of weeks' time. So
Mm.
and I'm
But
probably getting
42, that's a magical age. That's the
yeah,
answer to the
I'm
life, the
probably
universe, and everything.
I'm probably living a healthier lifestyle than I've lived in a long time. I have had an off week. Um because I was just eating fully plant based, not having anything to drink for like a month, and I've had a cheat week where I've had a few beers, I've had a few vegan junk food,
Okay.
but I noticed my energy levels dropped
Yeah.
completely. just
Yeah.
completely dropped. But I also had a bad. My back was bad. My neck's really bad today.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to start wearing me big collar thing.
Yeah.
I
I
just
got one
hate
of
it.
those.
I'm too fat. It gets in the way of my chest bone and like just me fat shoulders and everything. It's just like stuffing sausage meat into a sock. It's like all comes. It's not a good look.
This one does.
But I think I'm gonna have to start wearing it when I'm sitting down for prolonged time because my neck's fucking killing today, like really bad.
Do you do any exercises for your neck?
No, no, I've got given a list of them as well, and no, I don't.
Yeah, that's kind of like when I have had neck pain. Almost all the time, the way out of it is some kind of training this area or this area of the muscle.
It's only started this last week. It was always me back, my lower back, but it's only the neck that started this last couple of days. It's got
Those
really
things
bad.
go together, kind of like if your lower
Yeah,
back is weak, then your posture gets bad, and then your neck starts hanging down, and then you get pain in the neck. So it's
yeah.
like it does matter
I
and this
want.
is like
I'm thinking it's because I've been out more walking with my stick,
yeah,
which is a good thing.
yeah,
But I definitely notice it
yeah,
few days after. Like every part of me back aches and it's weak and me shakes, me clonus. But maybe that's me muscles being used properly
yeah.
again. I don't know. So
No pain, no gain. I think yeah, maybe. I mean, it does help if you have some kind of physiotherapist who can kind of work through this with you. Of
yeah,
course, when Raul comes to Iceland, we'll do a show with him, and he'll analyze you through his
my
knees.
goal is to get over there as well to do a podcast live with you in Iceland. That's how I
Yeah,
definitely want.
yeah,
I definitely want to get over.
yeah. Summertime is the
Yeah,
best. Yeah, right now we're having a storm. It's a red warning. We don't get as many times. So if I jump, if I fall out,
yeah.
then it might be because everything's gone black. But
Well, I told you we had loads of power outages. We had like the biggest storm in Britain for
yeah,
I don't know how long, but we were on a red warning. The Millennium Dome, the big arena, the roof came off that, and all sorts of chaos.
oh shit.
We're not used to like extreme weather in this country. We're
No,
very dull and grey country. It's like we'll have a little bit of sunshine in the summer, a little bit of rain in the winter, and maybe 2 days of snow, and that's about it. It's very
yeah,
much just bland.
yeah. Well, Iceland is not as extreme as I think many people imagine.
Yeah,
Because we have a Gulf Stream as well, and that kind of keeps temperature. It goes down to -10 is quite cold for us,
yeah.
and warm +16 in the summer is like a nice summer's day.
See,
With a,
I automatically assume it would be one of the coldest countries on the planet, just given
yeah,
its name.
no, yeah, I know that's supposedly that was a like a strategy by the original founders. They didn't want anybody coming to their country,
Yeah,
so they called it Iceland. Sort of like you don't want to come here. It's fucking cold. Go to
you just stay where
Greenland.
you are.
Greenland is the shit. But
Yeah, man.
there's also stuff like the guy who first came here. He climbed this mountain, and he looked to the west, and he saw a bunch of ice over the water. And that's why he called it Iceland. But I kind of like the other version, like,
Yeah,
oh, stay away. It's like my country.
yeah, definitely, man. So
Yeah.
is it similar to Norway in like in the landscape where there's fjords and the country split up into little segments and
Yes and no. It's like
yeah,
so. Imagine Iceland broken in half, and
mm,
then each piece drifting away, and then getting filled in by volcanoes. So
right,
if you go to the east or the west, you'll have beautiful fjords that whenever I visit Norway, I feel like Norway is like our bigger brother. It's like in every way. It's like
mm,
they have more people, they have more resources, and then their fjords are just a little bit bigger than ours,
yeah,
but very similar landscapes. But if you go more inland and northeast and southwest, then then you'll have more fresh, lava, or like earth, which
Yeah,
is more like, if you like, when I went to Galapagos, it was really weird because, of course, you're in the equator, so
yeah,
it's very, very different from Iceland, but it's also a volcanic island, so it also feels like home with a layer of biology that's not home,
yeah,
kind of. So any volcanic areas usually feel to me like similar to Iceland.
yeah. So Galapagos, that's pretty cool. Is that to do because obviously you're interested in the biology, the can't think of the term, but is that to do with like Darwin? And
Yeah.
is that the reason you went?
No, it's because mom. Well, yes, it is. I mean, Galapagos was always on my bucket list. It's one of those places that I really wanted to go to.
Yeah,
Then one day, my mom. This is after I was in a wheelchair. Some people were going for there was a geology conference there. So mom asked if I wanted to come, and I was like, yes,
yeah,
and at the time, I was kind of afraid to travel because I was the disability life was still kind of new to me.
yeah.
But Galapagos, I had
Mm,
to say yes. So, but yes, once there, you there's Darwin everywhere, Darwin T-shirts, and they really worship science and
yeah,
evolution, and then you come there after having read everything about Darwin, and you realize like yes, I can see why somebody interested in this field coming here would kind of start seeing like what evolution means, and
yeah.
seeing these different finches evolve towards very specific ways of feeding themselves, the tortoises. And so it's like just a little info about Galapagos. There's a couple of streams, or like we have the Gulf Stream in Iceland that brings nutrients and warm water to us.
Mm,
In Galapagos, you have three streams, I think, that all merge on Galapagos. So they're both bringing cold water, which is why you have penguins on Galapagos, and then
yeah.
you have warm streams that are also bringing up nutrients from the bottom of the sea, which allows like these autotrophs, these base producers of biomass that all the other animals feed on, which is
Mm.
why Galapagos is like an explosion of life.
Sounds amazing. Sounds like
Really,
it also sounds like a Darwin theme park. Like,
it kind of is. I mean,
yeah,
and the thing is, like for the longest time, nobody wanted to own Galapagos. It wasn't owned by any national. But then, due to like maritime regulations and laws, somebody needed to own it so that they could make sense of all the maps. So like,
mm,
who owns the fishing rights there? So it's closest to Ecuador, so it was just made sense that it would belong to that. And but for longest time, it was like a valueless plot of beautiful land. It was
mm,
I'm not sure when exactly this changed, but then of course when the global tourism thing happened, it became a really, really, hotspot of interest.
yeah.
So when I was there, the main import product was cement, because they were just building hotels, couldn't build fast enough. So
That's kind of a shame.
it really is, but I would like to go there again to see how they manage. But they
Mm,
did something that I thought was clever, is that they set limitations to how many people can come, and they
yeah,
charged people for coming. Hopefully, that money goes to kind of maintaining preservations, building
yeah.
roads, protect nature, and that kind of stuff. So we kind of looked at that when Iceland was going through our tourism boom, which was completely uncontrolled, and showed how idiotic that government, which ruled over them,
Mm,
was, because they didn't do anything really to respond to it, and tourists were getting more and more unpopular in Iceland due to
yeah,
the negative effects that they were having. But at the same time, it caused an economic boom, so Iceland was like benefiting from it in many ways.
yeah.
But yeah, it was like, do we set limitations? Do we charge people for coming in? But yeah, but it's gotten slightly better, I think. Of course, COVID came and kind of bought us time, but I assume that people are going to want to come
Yeah,
again once international travel becomes the same, and will we be ready to take on that kind of mass? I don't know.
yeah,
So we have a big country, but there's small roads. They get broken down, a lot. It's actually, Iceland is interesting due to the fact that our temperature is always fluctuating around the freezing point. So instead of just freezing and staying frozen, like in a lot of areas in Canada and these areas, when it's always freezing and thawing and freezing and thawing, it causes a lot more damage than if it just freezes and stays
right.
frozen. So it's presented a huge challenge to infrastructure and summer houses and stuff like that.
So is there like a lot of like erosion, land erosion next to like water?
Yeah, land erosion and like our roads, need to be fixed every summer, and a lot of them, and yeah, so it costs a lot to maintain a very spread out infrastructure, which is challenging because we have so few people. So there are fewer people to pay taxes that go to a government to actually, pay for all this stuff.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we do pay quite a high tax here in
I
Iceland.
suppose that's a catch-22 with tourism as well, because you want those pesky foreigners' money. to,
Yeah, yeah, which means that we need, because the problem was we started advertising like we made these cheap airlines. So the that was cool. A lot more people were able to visit. But the problem with cheap airlines is they bring cheap cheap tourists, meaning that there's a lot of tourists that would come here and not spend any money. So they would be
yeah,
utilizing the infrastructure without leaving enough money behind to make it all worth it. Also, some people said, I'm quoting
yeah.
some other brains
No,
now.
I can imagine a lot of people booking a cheap flight and cheap accommodation to Iceland, but then when they get over there, seeing the prices. Because I mean, a lot of, especially the English tourism, I know we've got a quite a reputation for being horrific travellers in other people's countries. um, but a lot of people go away to they expect to pay less for things. And I suppose that's quite difficult if you go to a country that's more like financially secure, like Iceland. And I certainly have had that experience in Norway, um, paying like over £11 for a pint, where I'm used to where I live in some of the pubs, it's like £2.99 a pint, £3, and it's yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's I mean, there is though with Norway and Iceland, we have like we tax our alcohol a lot.
mm,
So and then we try to use the money generated from that tax to pay for like the health issues that are generated by alcohol and addiction, so that we have lots of good therapies and stuff like that. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm googling. So we are currently the third most expensive country in the world after Denmark and
right,
Switzerland. Switzerland has always been on the top, but there was a few months I think that we surpassed Switzerland
yeah.
just before the collapse. Yeah, but I don't know. It's that's our whole conversation. Economies, and
Mm.
right now is like the cost of living is so expensive. Renting and buying houses, and there's a housing shortage and blah 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 blah.
So how much would it, on example, in Reykjavik, a two-bedroom flat? How much per month do you think that would be to rent?
Thousand, more than £1,000,
Wow.
£1,300
Yeah.
a
See,
flat.
I think some in London that would probably be about right, but where I
Yeah,
live, it's like talk about between probably about 600.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you can probably get that if you live like far outside of Reykjavik,
Mm.
but the majority of the population lives in the capital area.
Yeah.
In that area, it's prices have gone up, but it's issues like assets. That's one of the things I started learning about
Mm.
when I got into crypto. More like how you define an asset class and what that means, and like so I let's say I give you suddenly here's 100 million pounds. What are you gonna do after a insane spending spree? You realize that you got to park all that money somewhere, and
Mm.
if you put it in a bank, it's going to be get eaten up by inflation, and unless you do it intelligently. So you wanna buy some kind of asset that's going to defeat the inflation.
Yeah.
And housing is just it's a really really clever place to park your money, because not only is it something that accrues value more than inflation generally, but it also you're able to rent it out or live in it, so
Yeah.
it creates additional income. So I think that's one of our problems now. And the really thing that I really don't like about it that's happening in Iceland is that because there's such extreme demand, the houses that they're building are just ugly as shit.
Mm.
So just these horrible boxes of and you talk to an architect and they try to justify it with some like it's an expression of the modern version of the Russian compounds, and there's
Yeah.
so much philosophy in this ugly, 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 thing. But it's all about building quick and cheap,
Mm.
which
Yeah. A,
sucks.
a lot of where I live, the shops, the high street shops, are all closing down, and it's cheap, affordable housing being put in place, which I don't mind as long as it's not like unscrupulous landlords
Yeah,
renting it out to poor people, and
yeah,
there's always that scenario.
yeah. I think I was watching a movie the other day, an old what's it? It's a Beautiful Life, I think it was called. I was
It's a
seeing it for the
wonderful
first.
life.
Wonderful Life. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a wonderful movie. But there was one. So he's trying to maintain this social bank,
Yeah.
and because we used to have these social banks in Iceland, but then they got bought up by the more corporate oriented banks, and so in that movie, the social banks they're building houses that economically don't make sense, in that people buying them can't maybe fully afford them right away, but they do the best to try to pay it back. But you get these really nice neighborhoods and beautiful houses that people really want to live in.
Mm.
Alternatively, you have the evil guy who builds these horrible slums that people have to live in. Watching that movie, it just made me like shit.
Mm.
That's a really good depiction of the reality in Iceland today. We have all these horrible soulless neighborhoods where they've even taken out the beautiful grass area that they used to have between the blocks.
Mm.
Now it's just block to block, block parking lot, block parking lot. There's no area where kids
Yeah.
can play. And of course, that's maybe the justification that kids don't play outside anymore, so you don't
Mm.
need a grassy area between. But
Yeah.
still, it like creates this living, breathing space in
Hmm.
between the structures. Is this a indication that we're both over 40? We're like,
Maybe
I
so.
don't like man apart right there.
Well, on an uplifting note, I'm sure it was Iceland. Maybe a couple of years ago, I read, or more likely saw on YouTube, a project where like it was young women starting out on their journey, either through university or into work, so they could save up money. They moved in with elderly people, and they didn't pay any rent, but they helped cook and clean for the elderly people, whilst they were studying or working, so they could save up to then get on the property ladder.
I haven't heard of that, but
Mm.
I have heard of a project like that in the Netherlands
It might
uh,
have been the Netherlands then. It might have been, yeah,
a while back, but it wouldn't surprise me if they'd done something like that.
yeah.
But, it is worth mentioning another positive note that Iceland, I think, has consecutively been on the top of the list for where the best place in the world to be a woman,
Right.
which is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah. Reykjavik was also voted the happiest city a few years ago, where the
Okay.
population were the most happy and content.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
I remember seeing that. 'Cause I think a lot of that article sparked a lot of interest in people wanting to go over to Iceland and Reykjavik. I definitely remember reading about that a few years ago.
Oh, I don't know. I don't get it. I really I was thinking it's really nice to be from Iceland, but it's kind of boring to live here. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we
I
have a
suppose
lot
if
of
you've
good
lived there
things.
all your life, you can.
Yeah.
It's not as exciting.
No, I mean, it's like it depends on what you're after. I mean, I think a lot of my friends in the past they would move away, and all over the world, and then when they had children, they would come back
Yeah.
because it's so safe here, and we have excellent. We have like I think that's another. I think Iceland is one of the best places in the world in regards to child mortality.
Hmm.
Like it's a really good place to have a child and raise a child. Although our education system is like, I think
Yeah.
it could be improved upon a lot. I mean, then again,
I
I'm
imagine
teaching.
it'll be a significant improvement on the UK. I have no doubt
Yeah,
about that at all.
well, maybe.
Because I know, no, and again, I mentioned Norway a lot. That's only because my in-laws live in Norway, and I could see myself how good it would have been to raise the family over there. Um,
Yeah, Norway is awesome. I love
I'm too
Norway.
used to this. Where I live, I couldn't stay there. I couldn't live there.
Yeah,
I've reached that age where where I live now is probably where I'm always going to live. I feel
yeah,
comfortable in this area. Yeah.
yeah.
I've lived all over during my life in this country, moved all over, but I always tend to get drawn back to the northeast of England. So
Mm.
yeah,
I haven't been so much there. I've been more in the south area, and
yeah.
I do love that area, at least in the summer. But
Oh, the northeast is pretty cool. Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool. You'll have to
nice.
get yourself over one day.
I'm coming in the summer. I haven't set a date, but I'm planning an England tour. I'm gonna start
Right.
out in Edinburgh and then
Well, there you
try.
go. I'll come and pick you up from Edinburgh. It's only an hour and a half away in the car.
Nice. Yeah, and
Definitely.
then I'm gonna make my way all the way south to Swanage to meet some family there, and
Yeah.
so yeah, we'll definitely make it happen.
Cool. Yeah. Like I say, it's only about an hour and a half drive from here to Edinburgh. So
Nice.
yeah, we'll definitely do that.
Great.
Well, on that note, I think we'll move on to what we are doing and
Yeah,
what we are focusing on. Because I
yeah.
know we're both working on projects.
Busy
So
bees.
let's start off with you. What
No,
have you
you
got your
start with
little
you.
hands in at the moment? What are you working on?
Okay. Well, my main daily thing is I'm writing a novel. So I've been dabbling in it for years, but there's a statistic about Icelanders that one out of every 10 Icelanders publishes a novel in his lifetime. So I
Really?
felt like, yeah,
One
it's
out
like
of every 10?
one out of every 10.
Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still, one out of every 10, but it was that like 10 years ago. So I still go with it. But anyway, I feel like, I want to be one of the 10, so I have to publish, something.
Yeah.
So and I read a lot of sci-fi, so I decided I would go for it. So now I set myself the challenge that I'm writing at least one page every day,
Yeah.
and then it's really really fun. I'm really enjoying it.
Good.
Like having that world being born in my head and having all these challenges to solve, and then finding like these areas where I don't understand enough about
Mm.
how we would terraform Venus. So I have to spend like a day watching YouTube videos and reading Wikipedia how that would
Yeah.
go about. So yeah, that's my that's one. So
How
now over
how
to you.
far are you into the book?
I've written I'm almost at 70 pages now, and as I'm writing it, I'm realizing that I'm going to have to rewrite from the start, because I'm kind of getting ideas that I want to add a character, and I don't want my this character to be the type of personality that I thought she would be, or in the beginning of the book.
Yeah,
So so I am like, I'm realizing that once I'm aiming for like 350 pages.
yeah,
Once I reach that, I realize that I'll probably have to start over and write it all over again. And I am contemplating that maybe this one book might turn into more than one book, because I
yeah,
put so much time stuffing this world full with ideas and stuff. But
yeah,
we'll see. I'm gonna finish like first draft of it, and then I'm gonna get somebody to read it, and if they say I like it, then I'll keep going. But my goal is that I want to sell. So I'll give a lot of books, but I want to sell 100 copies, and then I will be content with that achievement. And
yeah, man.
and I'll go around saying like, yes, 1 out of every 10 Icelanders publishes a book, and yes, I am one of them. Hooah!
Excellent,
Hooah!
brilliant.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So
You will have to rewrite. It's just part of the process, really, isn't it?
yeah,
Even though I only do children's books, I have to do at least 6 or 7 drafts.
yeah,
It has to be done. Yeah.
yeah. I need to get
Every,
one of your
every
books.
word, every word's there for a purpose, and every word there's used for a reason. And yeah,
That's insane to think about, though. It's like
especially
writing
with a
the
novel, I couldn't imagine it with a novel, only
no,
because of I've said this is another reason why I've had a lot of people asking me if I'll ever go back and do stand-up comedy
yeah,
again. And I don't know at the moment because of the medication that I take. I haven't got any kind of mental sharpness anymore. I can't.
yeah,
The words just don't come to me head, and I say and I
yeah,
stutter a lot, and it's it's all since I had the operation. I've been on that many different kind of um, drugs that mess around with your nervous system and your muscles, and I really have lost the ability to draw like language and words. I was never like exactly a wordsmith, but I had a much more wide vocabulary that I could draw on when needed. I just don't think I would be as quick on stage anymore. So
hmm.
that's one of the reasons.
That's a
I,
pity. Well, you
I'll
can.
never say I would never say never, but right now I'm just not in the position to. I'm not in the. I'm just. I can't. I can barely speak sometimes. So
Me make word good.
yeah,
When you come to Iceland, you can give it a shot, and if you suck, only 10 people will have seen you,
maybe.
and I think we can like make sure that at least 5 of those people are in on it, so that
Yeah,
if you lose your track, you can just mumble something in
uh,
Britishese, garbage here, and we'll all laugh our ass off, and everybody
yeah.
will think that you're really funny. And
Cool. I might give it a go then. I might give it a go. Like I say,
yeah,
it was my job for a long, long time. But yeah, not
I,
now.
I I love the idea of like being a stand-up comic. It feels so I like Bill Hicks and these type
Yeah.
of guys who like really broke the social boundaries by coming
Mm,
in and like pointing out serious issues and just making it funny and kind of,
yeah.
yeah, George Carlin. And I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not a big fan of like the comedy for the sake of comedy stand-up dudes.
Mm,
They don't get me quite as well.
yeah.
I kind of get bored, but yeah. But okay, so over to you. You tell me one of
So
your projects.
obviously I've got the Graph Giraffe Gang NFT project.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing now is I'm
Awesome.
doing a collaboration with another project called the Fly Frogs,
Yeah.
which is a 25 one-of-one hand drawn or hand graphed frog in the Graph Giraffe Gang style, um, which go on auction every Thursday night, 9:30 p.m. American time, EST, so that's Eastern
Yeah.
Standard Time. And the money raised from that, 50% goes to my project, helping and supporting disabled artists. and 50% goes to a charity that are planting trees for tree frogs. Something I didn't know a lot about, but apparently the way certain countries are actively cutting down woodlands and trees, the population of tree frogs is dwindling. So the Fly Frogs NFT team want their half of the money raised to go and help plant trees for little frogs, which I think is
Cool.
pretty sweet. It's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
yeah. So half of it's to help little disableds and half of it's to help little frogs. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
I'm gonna go and buy one right now.
They're on auction. We've got one on they're on auction every week.
Okay, you'll send me a link and
I'll send you a link. Yeah, start that's very reasonable. 0.05.
yeah.
That's what they tend to go for. But the person also gets their own draft giraffe, which I will do, or they can do themselves, and that gets gifted to them as well.
Sweet.
So they get 2 NFTs, and they get
Great deal.
the joy of supporting disabled artists and helping out little tree frogs.
Yeah.
And I had a look, and the tree frogs are pretty damn cute. They're
Yeah.
a cute little species, and it would be nice to see the population go up as opposed to down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big theme in the novel that I'm writing is like this we've already destroyed everything in the future,
Yeah,
and the humanity that survives out in space, they are filled with survivor's guilt over all the species that we killed. So they turn Earth into kind of a preserve, limiting the humans that live there to narrow cities and yes.
wow.
Yeah, I think it's really sad. Really sad.
I can see there's going to be lots of politics and ethics and moral dilemmas in that,
Yeah. Yeah,
which
I'm
I couldn't possibly write right now. That's going to take you a long time.
yeah, it is, but at the same time, I kind of enjoy the process where you realize shit, this is if I really go deep into this, it's gonna
Yeah,
be a deep well of all kinds of stuff. But then you can also just like, you use the character that you are mediating those thoughts through, and you can, he can just say, but I'm not really interested in that, so I didn't really spend any time on researching it. And
yeah,
now you don't have to go that deep into the well. But I think it is a like knack to do it in a way that makes the reader kind of feel, pleased about.
yeah.
They're getting enough depth into it, but not, you don't want to start throwing too much science
Mm,
at people who aren't interested in that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to limit myself as I go into it. But then again, on the side, it is for me it's fun because it motivates me to do more research
yeah,
for myself.
definitely. And that'll happen in the second draft and the third draft. I think
Yeah,
with the first draft, it's kind of getting it down, isn't it? It's getting it down,
getting
getting that
that.
first draft finished.
Because I know how I want the novel to end. So right now, it's kind of I'm trying to get my character from where she is to that ending point, and just
Your protagonist, have you got her journey mapped out?
yeah, yeah. So I got it like in stages, but then like she just left the moon, and
Yeah,
that was fun. I really enjoyed it. So I turned the moon into like a party place. It was like a city full of people doing drugs and basically
yeah,
not being allowed. It's like a like a containment zone for humans who are less evolved than the spacers who,
yeah,
yeah. But anyway, she's on her way to Mars. Just got to in orbit around Mars. So suddenly I have to decide, like, what is Mars like in 1,000 years?
yeah,
So, so that's like a tricky thing to kind of do enough research to fill it with details, but not completely lose myself in like geopolitics of Martian terraformation projects and stuff.
yeah,
And then again, like I've read a lot of sci-fi, so I also don't want to like get lost in things that have already been done before.
yeah,
So I need to do enough to kind of tick the boxes. But if somebody's already written, like Kim Stanley Robinson wrote these beautiful trilogy. It's actually four books about colonization of Mars. So and I read those books. So I'm not gonna go and try to like
yeah,
copy all the stuff that he did. Although I will borrow mercilessly from it. I'm a
Yeah,
big believer of. I think it was Picasso who said, steal from everybody or something like that.
it's along those lines. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That a question that came into my head there because last time we spoke about you teaching me science and me asking you basic science questions
Yeah, it
that I
was so
wanted
fun.
that I wanted to know the answers to. I've thought of one there that I've always wanted to know. Right. So
Okay.
right. To get to the moon, right? It took I don't know how many decades and decades of scientific experimenting, technological engineering, and the launches are always you've got like a crew of thousands of people all behind machines and computers making sure everything's pin perfect to launch up to the moon, right? How the fuck do they get back? How do you get back from the moon? What did you just get a parachute and come? Like, I don't understand it.
What do you mean? From the moon, from the
Back,
moon's orbit back to Earth, or
so
from?
you know when you land on the moon, okay,
Yeah,
and whatever it is,
yeah,
do you not then need another rocket to have lift off to take you back?
yeah, yeah. They do, they do. So they land with that rocket. So they have like a lunar lander,
Right.
and the thing is that for one, the gravity well of the moon is much smaller than the Earth, so it's much easier to get into orbit again from the moon. And second, there's no atmosphere around the moon. So again, once you get enough speed, you just keep going, like at that speed, because there's no air particles bombing you from the other side, slowing you down again.
Right. So
That makes sense.
what kind of craft comes back? Because I thought the rocket like kind of breaks off once you in reach a
Yeah.
certain altitude.
So imagine you start on Earth and you have this great big monster of a thing,
Yeah,
which is mostly just rocket fuel and engines.
yeah,
So first they get you, into near orbit, and then you get rid of boosters on the way, and then secondary boosters get you fully into Earth orbit,
mm,
and then you have another third level boosters that you know let you exit Earth orbit and get into like a line towards the moon. So and the math behind this is all we've known the math. Almost you can almost do all of this with just basic Newtonian math.
mm,
So it's not very complicated to calculate, like how much energy you need to move from this point to that point. But then, once you come to the moon, you enter its gravitational field, and then again you have to adjust your speed so that the moon catches you into its gravity field. So now you're orbiting the moon just as you would, orbit the Earth,
mm,
but at totally different speeds because the moon is much smaller and less gravity. So now this you have this capsule which stays in orbit, which is your return home vehicle, and you go into this lunar lander thingy, and you go and land onto the moon with it. But you have to remember, most of the moon missions, they didn't land on the moon. It was only like, I forget how many, 3 or 4 or 5
mm.
that actually went down. Uh, so the rest of them just go into orbit and do some science there, or send down a robot or something like that.
Yeah,
But then, so now you've landed on the moon, and you have like this little base where you live in while you're jumping around and playing golf and that kind of
yeah,
stuff. And then uh, part of that one is your return to orbit capsule, which has enough rocket fuel. So you compare that one to the one on Earth. The one on Earth is like a big building. The one on the moon is just a small, puny thing, smaller than your car,
right.
because you really need so little energy to get yourself into orbit and through there is an atmosphere on the moon, but I think it's only like 1 centimeter of some kind of fine air particles. So I don't know if it's called an atmosphere actually, but that's something to Google.
So is there any gravity on the moon at all?
Yeah, yeah.
but
There is gravity.
just not like there's very little so that you can then. So right, say an astronaut's walking on the moon. Is the main ship still floating? Did you say in orbit?
Yeah, yeah. So then they need this lunar lander to get back into orbit and reattach to the orbiter, the return to Earth vehicle,
Yeah,
and then from there they launch themselves to Earth, and from there it's you just let gravity do the work. You just have to have a capsule that can tolerate the extreme heat which comes from going through Earth's atmosphere. On the way down, all those air particles are bombarding and creating friction. Friction becomes heat. So you would burn most things like when you look up and you see a falling, shooting star. That's some piece of metal or piece of rock or ice,
yeah,
which is
enter an atmosphere.
yeah, and it's burning up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's why we're not worried about it needs to be pretty big to actually survive going through that, or it needs to be specially shielded so that it can survive. But then once it's far enough down into the atmosphere, you open up a parachute that slows it down, and of course now we're entering a new age of space flight where like SpaceX and the amazing stuff that all the Earth's billionaires,
yeah.
space billionaires are doing. Where they're launching shit into orbit around the Earth, and then they're landing. These things again, and I think somebody used the analogy. Imagine every time that you go you fly over from England over to America, you would just explode the plane once you're done with it.
Yeah.
So you'd have to build a new airplane every time you flew. I mean, of course, that would cost a lot, but now we can re-land the thingamajigs and reuse them. So,
Reuse them. Yeah.
so we're
Is that
about to enter like a new era of space travel where, I think within our lifetime, if you want, you'll be able to go, at least into orbit, and then somebody's definitely going to build a hotel on the moon. So
yeah?
you're like, yay, I'm on the moon, and selfie time. I'm on the moon with Kim Kardashian, and it's great.
Oh, that's like uplifting and horrific at the same time.
Yeah, greatest motivator for space travel is to go where all the influencers
Oh,
have just photographed themselves.
like it's beautiful that our little semi-evolved monkey brains can do this, but it's grotesque. That would be the reason you'd want to do it, to have like a just to take a photo. Oh, I don't know how I feel about all of that. It's
No,
yeah,
I just like, oh, it's like my life. I just accept the good with the bad,
yeah,
and we hope for the best.
yeah,
Maybe one day we'll evolve out of the the decline. That we as a human race, we our average IQ went down for the first time since we started measuring like a few years ago.
wow,
So we've reached the peak, and now our average IQ is going down. Ah, that's kind of depressing
it
thought.
is. Is that because computers and smart
I
technology do jobs for us?
I don't know. I mean, you can approach this from a few different angles. There's like biologically, where we don't have any kind of pressure towards intelligence anymore. Dumb people are breeding and as fast as others. And now I'm tempted to point to if you go and you Google idiocracy on YouTube and you just watch the first 5 minutes of it. That's like a beautiful cynical version of that theory. But
Yeah,
but then again, I don't know. It might also be just lifestyles rather than biology. I mean, they say
yeah,
that biologically we were at our smartest. I think like 400 BC or something like that. It's like the time where we were still under enough environmental pressure, so only the intelligent survived.
yeah,
But also like in a social situation where people got opportunities to educate themselves and stuff like that. But today, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we aren't really people read books or really nurture their intelligences? or are they just chasing the next batch of dopamine
Yeah.
from watching more Friends,
Mm.
reruns of Friends, and
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know for a fact that my spelling since I left school in 1996 will be atrocious compared to what it is like now, because I don't have to think about how to spell a word. I'll guess how to
yeah,
spell it, and then it'll automatically correct on my phone.
yeah,
So I don't have to then, because I used to be able to. I was very good at I was very into English. But like I say now, my spelling, if I had to sit and write it out, it would just be atrocious. I would have no idea.
yeah. I think that's probably very common today.
And my handwriting is awful now. I tried
Yeah.
handwriting the other week and I couldn't. I can do graffiti writing because I've always done that kind of thing, but handwriting, no, God, it's unreadable.
Hmm.
Because
Interesting.
I've used a keyboard probably for more of my life than I haven't used a keyboard. I'm at that
Yeah.
age where I was using a keyboard at like 13 on the Spectrum, then the Amiga, Commodore 64, and so I mean I was using a keyboard from like early teens, maybe even before that, could be even before that. So I've pretty much typed and not written by hand.
Yeah.
I wonder
Yeah.
if that's going to be a dying skill.
Probably in a way. I don't know, I like the respect that the Chinese have for calligraphy.
Yeah, I do. I love watching videos on their handwriting. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a lot of lessons in school now are taught on like iPads and keyboards and
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense in in many ways, but still, there was one thing when I was in school, I would often ask the teachers, like, why do I have to learn this? Why do I have to learn this? I'm never going to
yeah,
use this, and they never answered. But like today, I wish they just told me because it's good for your brain.
yeah,
Like, even if you're never going to use this, it's gonna, nurture your brain and give you, some skills that you'll have no idea, but they might benefit you in some, extremely random way.
yeah, yeah.
Because we just don't understand the brain, and
Mhm.
but no, nobody said that. But like learning a language and mathematics. I mean, math is a language in a way, but
Mm.
they've shown that it reduces the likelihood of severe Alzheimer's and just
Right.
mental deterioration. So people who put a lot of effort into that, they are less likely to get dementia and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So let's go learn math, go learn a language.
That's interesting. Because I don't know if it does run in families, but if it does run in families, then it certainly runs in my family. My mom's got dementia now. My mother. Um, her sister died of dementia a few years ago, and her mother's sister died of dementia in like the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah,
And her other sister died early through cancer, but if not, it could have easily been dementia. It seems to be very prevalent in my family. So it would be
with a
nice
lot of
to,
yeah, with a lot of these things, it's like it's maybe not guaranteed that you'll get it, but there might be
yeah.
an increased likelihood.
Mm.
I don't know how it is with dementia though.
It's definitely something I'll be interested in looking in preventative measures to see if there is any credence in keeping the mind active and challenging it with different things.
Yeah, I mean there are no guarantees, but I think it is definitely worth putting some effort into it. And I mean, it's cool. You'll spend two
Yeah,
months like really testing your brain, and afterwards, you can speak Putonghua or
yeah.
some other cool language, and that's always
Well, I want to learn. I want to learn how to do comic book cell shading. It's something I've never been able to do. I've never been great at drawing people,
What's
and it's
cell
something I've
shading?
always wanted to do. You know, so like the comic book style,
Yeah.
each cell, and so like just using tone and shade to give off depth into such a quick sketch on a
Oh,
different cell for a comic book. So I'm gonna take a course in how to do that, because it's something I've wanted to learn.
sweet.
And yeah, I think as well as the physical side that I need to improve, I need to try and get some more mental clarity, because
Yeah.
this last year I'm noticing my vocabulary and my mental agility definitely on a decline, and I need to try and put a halt to that and become more articulate again, and
Yeah.
try and pick it up.
It's like, mind and muscles, it's use it or lose it. It's
Yeah,
very general rule, but yeah, I think it's also, I don't know. I always feel the best when I'm learning something,
yeah,
when I'm applying myself, and my life is in that balance where I'm doing something for the body, from something for the spirit, but also like something for the mind. There has to
mm,
be some sense of like challenging yourself
yeah.
regularly.
Well, I've
So
been
yeah,
creating lots of art lately,
cool.
but I do tend to stick to my comfort zone of my own style.
Yeah,
Um, so I think I want to break out of that and learn a new type of art, a new skill.
yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing the results. I think.
Yeah,
How about we do some kind of challenge, like every
yeah,
every month? Every month,
definitely.
you and me, we take on some challenge, and then we have to like share
The
in our,
results. Yeah,
yes, the results.
I'm up for
Show.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Cool. Well, we've just passed the hour mark. Let's have a think about that, and we'll
yeah,
set a challenge for each other next week.
yeah. Let's think about like who we should invite as a guest next
Yes,
time.
we need more guests. I've also let this site the podcast slip a bit. I know the weather was bad and the internet was off, so I couldn't upload. But I
Yeah.
probably could have done that sooner. But now I think I'm going to wait until this Thursday, and then we'll skip exactly 1 week, and then we'll be back on track, ready to
Yeah.
rock and roll.
I think our 20 subscribers will forgive
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. So if you're watching, guys, please hit the like button. Please, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. It's completely free. Doesn't cost you anything, and it
I think.
helps our little faces show up more frequently in the algorithm. So please do that. That would be much appreciated. But as always, thank you everyone for joining me and Branda and listening to our waffle. Keep looking after yourselves, and we will see you on the next one. Cheers,
Yeah.
guys. Bye.
Bye. Bye.